Hi there, I'm Ginny of the YouTube channel Finicky Reader. This subject may not be of interest to a lot of people, but I thought it was worth talking about. I've seen a lot of videos talking about how Booktube is full of young adult fiction, but for all of those commenters, adult fiction is still considered the standard. I'm kinda guilty of this too. I assume I'm weird or unusual because I read mostly non-fiction, but then I looked up the statistics. I went for a bit of a Google wander and found a Publishers Weekly article talking about the Nielsen BookScan category statistics. Of the sold books that BookScan kept track of in 2015, 310 million were non-fiction and 313 million were fiction. Okay, that's more fiction, but it's not the big difference I'm seeing on YouTube. I can't help but wonder if booktubers aren't reading non-fiction or just aren't talking about it. But who are these non-fiction readers that aren't getting involved in Booktube? Of course, anyone can read any kind of book they want, but the groups that told the National Endowment of the Arts surveyors that they read mostly non-fiction were older people and men. Generally, the older people got, the more non-fiction they read. It didn't talk about trans and non-gender binary people, though, so that'll remain an either-or thing here. Is this an effect of age or of changing values? I really couldn't tell you. But I can point out that the people reading mostly non-fiction are two groups that are vastly underrepresented on Booktube. Booktube can probably be accurately described as mostly young, female, white, and relatively affluent. And however many diverse-a-thons we have, until we have more variety of booktuber, we're going to be stuck caring about a small slice of the books that are actually out there. This may feel like it's coming out of nowhere. The thing is, I have two ways I buy books. I have a very long to-read list on Goodreads, over 400 books, made up of recommendations from Goodreads and booktubers, and also books I read about in books. The other way I get books is through trawling through charity shops and used bookshops. As it turns out, the books I like the look of on Booktube are almost all fiction, because they're what I see, but when I go from Goodreads recommendations, it's almost all non-fiction. When I went to the Astley Book Farm on Thursday, a simply fantastic used bookshop a few miles from my house, I came home with 7 non-fiction books. That got me thinking about what I naturally turn to, and what I sometimes get pulled towards. So, is there anything we can do about the booktube thing? I guess be more open to stepping outside of our genre and show our support to other kinds of booktubers. What's really sad is, the very people who could make our community more varied might be scared off by the lack of people like them, and bored away because no one's talking about the books they like. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the same problem that people who aren't white have. It's a bit of a self-perpetuating cycle. Also, I hate to point it out, but a lot of readers might not see the appeal of what we're doing. I've been reading The Shelf by Phyllis Rose, a non-fiction book where she tells the story of why she decided to read an entire shelf of books at her library instead of picking and choosing books, and what she learned while doing it. And she has a whole chapter dedicated to how people see fiction written by women. I think that's relevant because one of the authors she talks about was reticent to take part in Oprah's book club because he didn't want to be seen as a writer for women. Even being recommended by a woman can be a bad thing in this literary world that puts stock in men's writing and opinions and shies away from the emotional. Does a booktuber's gender or outpouring of love for a book sometimes drive away male watchers? Hey, if it does, too frickin' bad. I'm not saying we should change our book choices for the sake of men in particular, or any group that judges us because of the books we read. But I do think some of us could do with exploring other sections of the library and seeing what tickles our fancy. I'm stuck trying to put myself into this giant morass. Do I stick to my guns and keep making reviews even if no one is listening? Do I just go with the flow and start picking up only YA and doing book hauls every other week? Probably not the last one, but it might end up being a balancing act. As long as I'm having fun, it doesn't matter much to me which section I find myself in. Should it? Rant over for now. I guess I'm just thinking a lot about my relationship with Booktube at the moment. I hope you found this video interesting, and you're having fun reading, whatever it is. Talk to you later!